Welcome, learner, to this deep dive. Today, we are staring down one of the most notoriously biased tracks in all of Swedish trotting. Jägersro?
Yeah, Jägersro. I mean, it's essentially like playing billiards on a table that you know has a slight tilt to it, you know?
Tilt.
Yeah, like you can't just aim straight for the pocket. You have to calculate the slope into every single shot. If you ignore the table, you lose. I don't care how flawless your fundamental technique is.
Right, which makes our mission today highly specific. We are dissecting the massive V85 jackpot races set for April 11th, 2026. There is a staggering 49 million Swedish kroner in the pool today.
Which is just, it's a massive opportunity.
It really is. So we've gathered all the available data, the stable reports, the tactical models, and we're going to march through all 8 races. We want to identify the heavy hitters, spotlight the hidden long shots, and figure out the absolute best races to nail a single winner, what the Swedes call a speak.
Right.
It kicks off with V85-1. It's a 1640-meter sprint in the lower class mare division. And the panic to get to the front just feels palpable in the data.
Oh, yeah. Everyone wants the lead.
Right. So the favorite is number 2, Mahakala. And the sources say she's racing with an American sulky, a Junkervan, for the very first time.
Which is huge. And from post position 2, Mahakala is perfectly staged to use that advantage to grab the lead.
But we can't just hand her the trophy right now, can we?
No, because that ignores the sheer raw speed of number 5, Madame Miras.
Oh, right. She galloped last time, didn't she?
She did. She broke stride. But before that, she won with just overwhelming superiority. I mean, she has the explosive, fast twitch muscle fibers required to launch out of the gate and just steal that lead right out from under Mahakala.
And we also have number 6, Flame, getting a top driver upgrade. And number 1, Tullamore Rick, racing completely barefoot.
Right, which is another massive gear change.
Taking the iron shoes off removes dead weight from the hooves, which drastically increases the stride turnover rate. But here is where I struggle with this race profile.
What do you mean?
Well, if we know the dirt favors the leader, and we have 4 extremely fast horses desperate for that exact spot, aren't the drivers just going to run their horses into the ground in the first 500 meters? It feels less like a horse race and more like a high-speed game of chicken.
I mean, the underlying physiology models completely validate that concern. When drivers get locked into an early speed duel, they're forcing these younger, lower-class horses into, like, a 1.09 pace. It creates this ultimate paradox, right?
Yeah.
The fight for the track bias destroys the horses fighting for it.
Which perfectly opens the door for a closer who just sits back and watches them burn out.
Exactly.
Like number 3, Evangelista Face. We know she was completely locked in last time. She crossed the finish line, boxed in behind other horses with all her energy saved.
She is a coiled spring today.
This is where you spread your budget wide. You simply have to survive the chaos of this first race.
Yeah, surviving early chaos is basically rule number 1 today, because as we shift into V85-2, the entire paradigm changes.
Right, this is a sport trappa.
Exactly. A race where starting positions are determined by a horse's career earnings. So, the richer you are, the worse your starting post.
And we're looking at a clash of elite mares over the same short 1640-meter distance. We've got number 7, Ale Hollerid, who's an established star, against number 9, Celia's. And Celia's is an Italian-trained powerhouse who has been winning with just ridiculous ease.
Ridiculous ease. Yeah.
But, so we just established that low-class horses destroy each other fighting for the track bias. Does extreme gear optimization and raw class mathematically overpower that physical dirt advantage? Because looking at the data for Celia's, she is starting from the back row in post 9.
Right.
Yet the sources highlight her as our first major opportunity to lock in a speak, a single winner.
I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it really comes down to peaking conditioning versus ring rust. The track bias is a constant variable but biological form that's dynamic.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, Celia's is stepping out barefoot all around, and the stable is equipping her with that aerodynamic American bike for the very first time this year.
Which we know is a huge boost.
Huge. And beyond the gear, her trainer's stable historically hits this unstoppable, almost frightening peak in their cellular conditioning right around this time in the spring.
Wait, really? Just because it's spring?
Yeah, their horses simply process oxygen better in April than they do in November. It's a known data point.
But Ale Hollerid is likely going to blast forward, get that heavily favored Jägersro lead, anchoring a ticket on a horse in the back row on a front runner track. It still feels like walking into a trap.
I agree. It would be a trap if Ale Hollerid was at peak fitness. However, the stable notes reveal she might still be carrying some ring rust from her time off.
Ah, okay.
When a horse lacks recent competitive racing, their cardiovascular system just hasn't been tested at maximum load. Ollie will look brilliant on the lead for 1,400 meters, but when her lungs start burning in the final stretch, Celia's massive momentum and optimized gear will mathematically override the geometric advantage of the track.
She'll just run her down.
Celia's will simply run her down.
That tension between perceived advantage and hidden weakness brings us directly to a psychological flaw in how we analyze these races. Because in V85-3, we step up to the middle distance of 2,140 meters.
Right.
And we get so obsessed with a two-horse tactical duel that we completely ignore the periphery. Like the narrative here is entirely focused on two rising stars. Number 5, Love Express WF, who is undefeated when she reaches the lead, and number 6, Call Me Ottilia, who has been explosive since moving to a new stable.
It is incredibly tempting to lock this race down to just the 5 and the 6. I mean, both are aggressive, both want the lead, and the statistical probability firmly supports a front-running victory for whoever wins the start.
Right.
But deeper analysis warns us against tunnel vision here. You simply cannot ignore number 9, Direction Face, or number 8, Olympia Shermer, who possesses immense toughness despite a terrible draw.
I want to focus on number 9, Direction Face, for a second, because on paper, she looks at a mess.
Yeah, she does.
She galloped and was disqualified in the final turn of her last race. Why are the sources telling us to trust a horse that literally couldn't keep her footing?
Because you have to read the mechanics of the gallop. A horse breaking stride doesn't always mean they were exhausted. Sometimes a horse gets tangled or they get overeager while waiting for a gap to open.
Okay, so it's not always a stamina issue.
Exactly. The critical detail from the observers last time out is that Direction Face had massive amounts of energy left when she broke stride. Her engine was fully primed, and before that mistake, she was winning brutal races by grinding down opponents from the outside.
So this race looks exactly like two high-end sports cars, horses 5 and 6 revving their engines and glaring at each other at a red light.
Yeah.
And they are completely ignoring the heavy-duty diesel truck, number 9, quietly building momentum right behind them.
That is the perfect analogy.
If those sports cars get into a 52-kilometer-per-hour duel and drain their tanks, the truck just cruises right by. Number 9 is exactly the kind of horse that turns a standard $10 payout into a $10,000 windfall.
Absolutely. And the mechanics of exhaustion play an even larger role when we escalate to the heavyweights.
Right. V85-4, the gold division.
We are looking at the absolute elite here. This is the first qualifier for the Paralympia Trivet. We have a legendary 9-year-old veteran returning to his home track, number 3, Onus Prince, making his seasonal debut.
And the consensus is pretty absolute on him, isn't it? He will get the lead, which is a position where he is virtually untouchable at Jägersro.
Untouchable. But waiting for him is number 8, Kentucky River. And his seasonal debut is already out of the way. He didn't win his last race, but he clocked an absolutely monstrous finish. He ran a 1.07.5 pace over the last 700 meters.
Oh, wow. Sustained at the very end of a race when every other horse is drowning in lactic acid.
Yeah, that is blinding, elite-level speed.
And unbelievable.
So this creates the ultimate test of tactical position versus race conditioning. Onus Prince gets the free ride in the lead. Kentucky River has to do the heavy lifting from the outside.
Right. And there are other challengers, right? Like number 4, Boucher Diablo, returning from a tough French campaign.
Yeah, and number 5, Luke the Spook. But honestly, the battle for the win really distills down to the 3 and the 8.
See, betting on a horse making its seasonal debut in the gold division feels incredibly risky to me.
Yeah.
It's like betting on a marathon runner who has all the natural talent in the world but hasn't done any high-altitude training this month.
Exactly.
The lungs just aren't fully expanded for that final agonizing sprint.
That is the perfect physiological comparison. At the gold division level, the margins are razor thin. A lack of recent racing doesn't show up at the starting gate. It exposes even the greatest champions in the final 100 meters.
So Onus Prince will dictate the pace and look like a winner for 2,000 meters.
He will. But Kentucky River has the conditioned lungs and the cardiovascular base to push him right to the absolute limit. Locking your ticket with just the 3 and the 8 covers both the track bias and the conditioning advantage.
So elite fitness can challenge the frontrunner. But what if a horse's baseline engine is just so massive that starting position mathematically ceases to matter entirely?
Ah, now we're talking about V85-5.
Yes, stepping down to the bronze division. We find the most polarizing setup of the day. Number 10, Indie Boy. He is on a 3-race winning streak, stepping up in class, expected to race barefoot all around, and he is a prime candidate for a spick.
He is a cardiovascular machine, but he starts from the back row.
Right.
And the horses in front of him are serious contenders. Number 2, Jericho Brick has the perfect draw to take the lead. Number 6, Finance Lady Par is another Italian-trained horse hitting that scary spring form, racing barefoot and finishing with incredible speed.
Yeah. So Indy Boy might be our statistical anomaly. But if data can solve the bronze division, what happens when the data completely breaks down? Because V85-6, the Class I division, looks like a random number generator.
Oh, it is the most chaotic puzzle of the entire deep dive.
The variables in this race are staggering. We have number 4, Dream Burgerhide, a Dutch horse who won beautifully in his Swedish debut.
Yeah, very fast out.
And we have number 8, Sammy Boy, coming off an impressive Monte win in France. And Monte, for our learner, is under saddle racing with a rider on the horse's back instead of a sulky, right?
Exactly. And that discipline builds incredible core strength and resilience, meaning Sammy Boy thrives on hard, grinding work. Then you have number 2, Mr. Smartface, rapidly climbing the classes and looking fantastic.
How do you even begin to handicap the hidden form here? Because we have number 3, Nordic Inn, racing barefoot all around for the very first time, which we know can unlock an entirely new gear.
He finally has a good draw.
Right. And then number 12, Ingmar Banker, a massive 2% shocker who the data shows was completely locked in with a full tank of saved energy last time.
You don't try to handicap it down to a single horse. You just don't. When a horse is locked in, like Ingmar Banker, they leave the track frustrated. They are a coiled spring next time out. Statistically speaking, this is the exact architecture of a race that triggers a multi-million jackpot. With French form, Monte strength, barefoot debuts, and trapped energy all colliding. The probability of a totally forgotten long shot crossing the line first just skyrockets.
So with so many unknown variables, is this the race where you just buy as many tickets as you can afford?
Yes. You must spread your coverage as wide as your wallet permits in this specific race.
Okay, survive that chaos, and you are immediately faced with the biggest trap of the day in V85-7, the Silver Division. Everyone recognizes the name of the heavy favorite, number 7, Savastano.
Oh, yeah.
He won during the prestigious Elitloppet weekend last year. His capacity is undeniable, but he's making his seasonal debut, likely racing with his heavy iron shoes on, and the consensus is that he's massively overbet by the public based purely on his celebrity status. Savastano might be an Olympic-level talent, but without that recent high-altitude training, a real race in his body, his lungs aren't ready to defend a 50% betting mark against horses that are actively in peak mid-season form.
Exactly the point. Betting on Savastano today feels like paying full price for a blockbuster movie, but you're only getting the rough-cut trailer. The potential is there, but it's not the finished product yet.
Right.
And because he's taking 50% of the pool, you are essentially getting wildly inflated odds on every other highly capable horse in the race.
Like number 3, Golden Crescent. Did all the heavy lifting outside a top horse last time and is poised to take the lead.
Or number 11, Pole Position. Won his comeback race and is extremely resilient.
Yeah, and number 6, Fantastic Geo, a returning Italian mare with incredibly high potential.
Exactly. If Savastano miraculously wins on raw talent, the ticket payout is low anyway. But if his lungs fail him in the final 50 meters, the financial value of your ticket multiplies instantly. This raises an important question for bettors. You are mathematically obligated to try and beat him today.
Which brings us to the grand finale, V85-8. A 2,640-meter test of pure stamina mixing Class 3 and Class 2 horses.
Right.
And if we've spread our budget wide in the chaotic sprints and the unpredictable Class I race, we need a massive anchor here to make the overall ticket affordable and efficient, right?
We do. And the data points squarely to number 9, Star Thunder Road.
Star Thunder Road. So he's universally praised across the sources.
Yeah, the 2.6-kilometer distance is entirely his domain. He galloped away a sure victory in the final stretch last time out, but his underlying metrics dictate that he is simply a class above this specific field.
We're talking about his stride length and his unique ability to clear lactic acid over long distances.
Exactly. Plus, he is racing barefoot in the back for the first time, which will only improve his turnover rate.
Now, there are capable challengers, like number 11, Melby Note coming off a break, number 8, Dats Million, and number 5, Express Chab. But what really stands out in the stable reports is the long-term ambition for Star Thunder Road. The trainers are explicitly matching him toward the prestigious Swedish Derby later in the year.
And that single piece of information tells you everything about his baseline engine.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive, learner.